Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Israel Brief, the last one of this week. Where does the time go? The Israel Brief is proudly brought to you by Lay of the Land. I'm Raylene Marks, bringing you the top stories from Israel and the region every Monday to Thursday right here, and also on YouTube. I mean, we are in lockdown, so really YouTube's the only other place I could go. And if you click on the big red subscribe button, you too can take the headlines from Israel and surrounds out to others. So let's take a look at those top stories. And as has been the dominating headline this week, the COVID crisis, and it is a massive crisis in Israel, is the main story. And it was announced early this morning that the government will be tightening the lockdown on Israelis as of tomorrow afternoon. So what does this entail? Hasn't the lockdown been strict enough? Well, apparently it hasn't, because for the last 2 days in a row, we have seen an exorbitant amount of infections at nearly 7,000 per day. Now, the coronavirus czar, or leader of the coronavirus crisis, Professor Ronnie Gamsu, says that this will come at a tremendous economic cost. So what this will entail is that businesses will further be shut down as far as having staff come in. Synagogues will be shut with the exception of very, very, very few highly controlled prayers for Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. And I must say, on a personal note, this is particularly hurtful for Israelis. We are the Jewish state. This is the time of our high holy days, and we cannot observe them in a way that we normally would. Protests, which are highly contentional at the moment, have been stopped with the exception of groups of 20, no more than 1,000 meters from their homes. Protest was one of the big issues that was up for discussion and debate, very, very heated debate in the Knesset yesterday. Some saying that, it's our democratic right, others saying you have to put aside the democratic right to protest, maybe look at other solutions. But it was, as we say in Hebrew, a massive balagan. But this is the situation we are at the moment. You can only really go to the supermarket or to the pharmacy or other essential places that have permission. Very, very strict control indeed, and very, very difficult next few weeks for the state of Israel. But let's see if we can get those numbers down. In other news, the Palestinians have been a great topic of discussion. How are the Abraham Accords or the normalization tracks affecting the Palestinians? And we had wording today that we can expect normalization with the African state of Sudan, also a Muslim country, within the next couple of days. Let's hold thumbs and see if that happens. But this comes as per a US official. What has been interesting is that official aid for the Palestinians has plummeted by about 85%, from about $267 million to a mere $38 million for 2020. And while this does come amid the COVID-19 pandemic, some are saying that maybe it is as per normalization. We know that the Palestinian Authority are blaming normalization for their lack of receiving funding. Very, very interesting statistics indeed. And our last story takes us back to social media. Yesterday we spoke about how Zoom said they will refuse the San Francisco State University and their panel featuring arch-terrorist Layla Khaled. She who had links to the PFLP, still has links to the PFLP, and is famous for hijacking an El Al flight back in the 70s and threatening to blow it up with a hand grenade. Well, they kicked her off the Zoom platform, and they said that this kind of webinar contravenes their hate speech laws, contravenes their services laws, and contravenes US terrorism laws. And Facebook also decided we will not be allowing this to take place on our platform. It is quite common now that the overflow from Zoom, or people host webinars using Facebook as a streaming mechanism as well. Facebook also said, hell no, we don't go. And if that wasn't enough, YouTube also came to the party. The panel took their their webinar onto YouTube, and after 20 minutes, YouTube kicked them off, saying they also contravene their standards. So it does look like the social media platforms are starting to wake up to hate speech and starting to wake up to this kind of rhetoric, and we certainly applaud them for that. So those are the top stories making headlines in Israel. I just want to remind you all that we won't be on air on Monday. It is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, so we'll be broadcasting next week from Tuesday to Thursday. But if you're looking for something to do this weekend, don't look any further than our website at www.layoftheland.online. We go back to the raid on Entebbe, and we mourn the passing of Dr. Yossi Factor, a doctor who was aboard this very, very daring rescue. Read all about it there. It's also on our Facebook page, and check in on us on Facebook. Give us a like, give us a follow, share our content, and see what updates we put over on the weekend. We do make sure that we have content scheduled for your infotainment. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Israel Brief by clicking on the big red subscribe button, and interact and follow us on Twitter at Lay of the Land with the digit 5. I had to think about it for a second there, at Lay of the Land with the digit 5. But I would like to take this opportunity to wish you all and your families, on behalf of all of us at Lay of the Land and the Israel Brief, a peaceful, a restful, and a healthy weekend. And for those of you who are observing Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, Gamar Chatima Tova, may you be inscribed for a good year, a peaceful year, a happy and healthy year. Shabbat Shalom from all of us. I'm Rolene Marks, and we'll meet again on Tuesday.